So, okay, so what we're doing, again, this is a super review. So we do private int x and y, all right? So we have those as our private variables. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a constructor. Michelle, what would the constructor be for this class? I want you to give me a default constructor, and that's something you guys have to get used to. A default constructor, when you hear that term default constructor basically means it is a constructor that has no parameters. Okay, go ahead.
Probably super review.
Okay. Okay.
Default constructor, it's a constructor without parameters.
Yep. Okay, so public, and what we're going to do is we're going to say x equals 4, and we're going to say y equals 5. Is that all legal?
Yep.
All right, now what I want you to do is we're going to create an overloaded constructor. So, Kayla, I want you to give me an example of a constructor that uses pass by value, where the user sends the information, it's sent from the tester class and it to these variables, the way that we normally do our constructors. It has parameters. Pass by value is where when we make the object out of it, it sends it from the tester class to super review. Okay, again, remember, so we're going to say int x, int y. All right, now again, we have two constructors, same name, different parameters. This is called constructor overloading. This one is the default constructor. So when I do this, I'm going to say int x and int y. So here I'm going to say, how would I initialize these variables? This dot x equals x, and this dot y equals y. Very good. All right. So I have these. This dot x equals x. This dot y equals y. All right. Now I'm just gonna do now public. Let's say get. We're gonna make a. Let's just do a getter for x. Public.
Public int get x, and then return x.
Perfect. Okay, and we're gonna do a getter for y. What would our getter for y be?
Public int get y, bracket, parentheses, brackets, return y.
Very good.
Does it matter if y or x is capital?
No, on this one, no, because it's part of the name. Okay, so here we go. We've got 4 methods: public super review, public super review. So we're 2 constructors, and we have 2 methods. Now, to give you an idea of how this is working, I'm going to go ahead and just create a tester class. Tester. So this one has the main method, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make an object, super review. Let's say a equals new super review, and I'm going to do this.
Bryce couldn't take the break much longer.
What? Oh, shit. All right, so I have these. Super review A equals new super review. Super review B equals new super review. Actually, make that a little larger, sorry. So this one is using the default constructor. So what's happening is it's going to use this one right here, the default constructor. Perfectly legal. This one, however, is using pass by value. And it's sending these values to here. Okay, to this constructor right here, and then it's initializing B with those specific values. So if I were to print out a.getX and, oops, capital X, and b.getX. So if I take a look at this, a.getX, b.getX, 4 and 5. The default for x was 4 in this one, but in the pass by value for me it was 5. So these are, again, these do not see each other. But this is just kind of showing you guys how these constructors are working. Again, I know for some of you this is overkill, but I'd rather you be bored and think that it's easy than have a slight bit of doubt. So moving on, we have the methods. Those methods are fine. Now, we're going to create a new class. Let me get rid of public here. Class
Do that again. Get get rid of the public. It's just one of the weird things.
What's that? Yeah, it's just for that, and that's just for you won't ever get marked off on a. You never had to do that in older versions. They just did it in this one. So class sub review. What keyword do I extend, or do I use? Extends super review. All right. Okay. Thank you. So class sub review extends super review. Now I want you guys to take a look specifically at this. Okay, I'm going to make this slightly larger. Class sub review extends super review. We used to get an error. Take a look what happens when I delete my default constructor. Who remembers the rule? Alex.
You first have to initialize the state variables of the constructor.
So if you're only hold on. Remember, we got a recording. We got a recording going on here. If the rule says this, if your only constructor is one that uses pass by value, that takes variables from the tester class, then the subclass needs to have a constructor. Okay, by default. So I need to use a constructor here. However,
if you didn't have a pass by value.
now let's say this. Now take a look. Now, if I delete this one, I'm still good.
What happens if you don't either?
If you don't have either, you're still fine. Remember the default, if you had neither, then X and Y would have no values. Yeah, it would just be variables, and you'd return X and return Y. You'd have an error because they wouldn't be initialized. Okay? But what's happening is this. When I put this back, take a look, still no error either. If you have a default constructor, that rule about the subclass needing a constructor is out the window. Why?
Because there are no state variables to initialize.
Exactly. This one automatically does it for you. And because you don't need any special rules, let's just say like, oh, okay, they may not know that that's there. Let's just say they don't know this is here. You can still theoretically make the object and it'll initialize the variables for you. So if it has a default constructor, super's out the window. Will you ever be expected to like do a free response like this? More than likely not. I've never seen a free response where it's had overloaded constructors before. You will have free or multiple choice questions though, where you will definitely have something like this. But they'll be slick about it. This is why you have to analyze. They'll do this. And they'll put a lot of codes and at parameters and stuff like that. They'll do that. It's completely a jerk move. It really is. But anything wrong with this program?
No, it's legal.
Legal. And what is this testing that you have gone through and analyzed? What I do on the multiple choice, you're allowed to bring a highlighter, I believe, aren't you? You should be allowed to bring a highlighter.
Yes, you are.
You're allowed to bring a highlighter. Every question that was long, I'd go through and I'd just highlight every single name and look for matching.
What do you mean name?
Super review, super review. Oh, I got two here.
Got it.
So yeah, so also, because I could have an overloaded method, right? I could have an overloaded method. Remember, an overloaded method is just method with the same name, different parameters.
Subclass matches one of the classes in the superclass you're doing.
Yep. So in this case, so what we're going to do is we're just going to, so we can do super, and we can still do super. Okay, it just means that we don't have to have, like, what's the best way? Like, we don't have to have a default constructor. It is no longer a requirement. We're still going to do it anyway, just for giggles. Public sub-review int A, int B. Now, super A, B. Done.
But if you had another variable that you created, you wouldn't have to do super. Like if you had int A, int B, and then string C, you just initialize string C as normal.
Yep.
Because A and B belong to.
Yep.
And that turns A to 4 and B to 5, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it follows
Oops.
the border.
No, whoops. Okay. So, public sub-review,
No,
that is,
whatever
so
X
what
and Y.
super A and B does is it basically just says, okay, use A and B and initialize the variables, the inaccessible variables, the way that you did up here. That's all it's doing. You have to know that. Yes.
But would they be initialized according to the pass by values in the super review constructor?
No.
Or the
They'll be initialized, yeah. They'll be initialized, but for example, let's say I mix these up and I have B and A. I want A to be the first one in B. This order doesn't matter. It's how you put them in here that matters. And then they'll fall in line with the way that you initialized
No,
them
I
here.
know that. I'm just saying, like, let's say you make the values for X and Y in that other constructor different than the default. Then which ones will they be initialized to?
What do you mean?
Like, it's a super A. Oh, it's just a protocol.
Yeah, I
It's
told you.
not
It's just the
doing
rules. Follow protocol that you did in the superclass.
anything. Okay.
I used X and Y and initialized the variables this way. Here they just happen to be A and B. The values themselves. This one first, this one second. This one first, this one second.
Oh, so okay, so it would be that one. So
Yeah.
Not the default.
So like in the rare occasion that we were to have to make like a subclass for a fierce one, I don't know.
You will.
So
I have a feeling there hasn't been one in a couple years. I have a feeling it's coming.
so then should we always just like
What's coming?
as like a precautionary
Subclass.
do a constructor in the subclass like as a precaution?
You can, like for example, like take a look at super review. So I can always do this, public super review. Super. Okay.
Public subreview.
Oh, sub review. Take a look at now. Take a look at what I did with super here. This only works with the default constructor.
It was named differently.
Super. Just do everything that you did up here in the default constructor.
Into the pass by value constructor too.
Yeah, but what we did is we super followed these rules. Super, just do everything you did. So what this is saying in here, super is basically saying go ahead and just do everything that you did in this default constructor this way.
So it's-
This is saying initialize in this order with the
So
values.
the super in the first one, what is it? It sets X and Y equal to 4 and 5.
Yeah, so for example, so take a look. Now let's say we did sub review.
Suburb.
These are the
Okay? So sub review, and I'm going to say 52 in this case to really differentiate it. Now take a look. Now what super in the default constructor in sub review has done is just said make it 4 and 5, do everything the exact same way. Sub review, super has said whatever values get sent, initialize the X state variable with that, and initialize the Y state variable with this, A and B.
That's the method of loading.
Yep. 4 and 6. Okay.
Constructor overloading, I believe.
Oh, constructor.
Okay, take a look. I get 4 and 6. Why didn't I get 52? Michelle, why didn't I get 52? Sure, let me do this real quick. Okay. Why didn't I get 52? Michelle only.
Oh, that's tricky.
It is a tricky one.
You little. That's not nice.
Do you see it?
That's not nice.
I see it. Oh,
Shh. Michelle,
so mean.
why didn't I get 52?
The B and the A are squared.
Perfect.
Yeah.
There you go.
Nice.
The A is here, so I'm taking the second one
No, that's just
and putting it
That's
in.
just mean.
52.
Very nice.
It's not, but at the same time,
And it
You
takes
know the
it by
concept.
order of
it takes it by the order. This is the, remember I told you this order doesn't matter. This order matters. It's going to initialize X with the first, remember the protocol? It's going to take the first, it's going to take X, the first value, put it here, Y, put it here. A is theoretically being thrown into here, which then goes to X. This is being theoretically thrown into here, which is then being thrown into Y. That's how you have to look at it. These don't matter.
How do you get 6? Oh, 6 is input there. Why don't you have 52?
Because what happens is 52 got put into B.
Yes.
Okay? All right? B comes second,
Yes.
being put into Y.
Yes.
I'm calling on get X.
Oh, so
6 is put into A.
Get X.
A gets first, sent into this one that initializes X. So you're following those parameters. Does that make sense? It's a tricky one, but it's a good question. I mean, this is a good one, but it wasn't that hard of a trick question. Something you would see, though. Hint, hint on a test. Okay.
I see it.
Okay.
I just have
Next test is gonna be next. Woo-hoo. Next test is gonna be next. Next test is gonna be next Wednesday.
That's capacity.
Huh?
I'm like, it's not the
Next.
one thing. Is one
Shabbatone. Yes.
Wait, it's the
Huh?
Shabbatone?
You guys can study if you want because it's gonna be a cum test. You have to look at it this way. Every single test from now on. Every single test from now on is going to be mini finals.
When's the next test?
Wednesday. But also, guys,
Coming Wednesday?
yes. Okay, so this is also real quick, guys. Before we start off, shh. So the other thing I want you guys to do, also, guys, remember. Okay, what I want you guys to also remember is method overriding. The minute that I do this, public int get x. Everything is now gone. So now now everything is completely gone now.
What do you mean everything?
He overwrote.
I overrode this.
Yes.
I can't do this.
Why?
Because what happens is this. I inherited x and y.
Yes.
I did not inherit access to them.
Now let the whole
So what if I wanted to say this, sys out, and I'll just say
Is it control space?
the new x. And then I do this, super dot get x. Okay.
Oh, now you're.
Oh,
calling it
whoops,
from-
return.
Now you're calling it from the class.
Okay, return super dot get x. This is legal. What super does with a method is basically says, get everything that was in the code before you deleted it. So in this case, it would be return x. So this is return super.getX. It's going to return that. Now, system print line the new x. Are you recording? Oh, okay. So system print line the new x returns super.getX. The difference is, now take a look. Here's the difference between the two. In the one in super in the constructor and super, oh, whoops. Let's say I just got rid of this. Oh, crap. Okay, so take a look. This one is just dumb because it really doesn't do anything. It returns the new x and then returns .getX again. Okay, super can be used before or it can be used after. In a constructor, when does super have to appear? First things first. Okay, it's the first thing that appears. All right? So, that being said, that is the super subclass review. This, to this extent, is pretty much what you need to know. You have to be logical, though. You have to understand when to call on, because they will ask you questions like, when do we call upon another thing? When do we call upon, or like, when do we call upon, create a method that gets overridden, but make sure that you also call upon what it used to do. Right there, I know that I have to use super somewhere. Okay, so I can even use it here. I can just say, or I can write it in another method. I can do get y and then say return super.getX. I'm allowed to do that. Okay. All right. So I'm going to pause that there.